this is a slightly bit different video because it's a modded review. Now, this is a proper review in that I've had the blaster for quite a bit of time, about a week now, and I'm just starting to do a actual review on it. And, you know, I can accurately judge where it kind of falls and everything and give my thoughts on it as opposed to just unboxing it and shooting it off and saying, oh, this is pretty good. Which is basically what I did in my last video, but I didn't call that a review for good reason. This I'm calling a review, and it's modded. I'll get to that. Now, this is, of course, the ever-lovable BOOMco Double Rush. It is a pump-action 2-dart revolver in the BOOMco line. If you don't know what a BOOMco is, this is what a BOOMco is. These are BOOMco's Smart Stick darts. They're like a vinyl tube, very, very durable, very soft, though, with a rubbery head that, if you have a Smart Stick target, will stick right to it. Not that they ever seem to give those with any of the blasters, except for this one, of course. And BOOMco as a whole is generally, as I keep saying, better than Nerf, or at least the ammo type is better, because not only is it far more durable, but it's also more accurate. It flies farther in the air because it carries its momentum a lot better. Genuinely a better projectile, but the blasters make or break the dart, and in BOOMco's case, a lot of people don't like the blasters that much. And well, is this one going to be any bit different? Well, some of you have already decided whether you like this thing or not, and that's perfectly acceptable, because I really like this blaster, and the stock performance was acceptable for what it was. It wasn't anything great. A rough cut, for instance, can seriously menace this thing without giving it a proper angle, but it was nothing to write home about. It doesn't have slam fire or anything like that, but it is a rather compact blaster. Here's a typical Nerf Strong Arm, and it is identical, the same exact size, I would say. Which means it's a pretty capable sidearm slash secondary, especially when it does something a little bit different, being a 2-dart, 3-shot shotgun in a pretty compact package. The grip is pretty small, but even for my chubby fingers, it seems to work perfectly well. If you really wanted to, you could cut the blaster basically right about here and put on an entire new grip if you so chose. The pump action is very, very comfortable as well, and there's dart holders up here at the top built into the blaster. Here's a tactical rail which will fit Nerf accessories if you try hard enough, and then of course dart storage in the grip itself. I like it. I liked it a lot, but again, stock performance kind of leaning me to not really wanting it so much. A direct comparison for the stock performance, I would say, is the BOOMco Tri-Blast here. This is a little tiny pistol that's basically replaced my M6, well, pocket sniper rifle kind of thing, because the M6 hits really hard, but, well, mine had some issues and finally died on me. So I replaced it with this, which hits a little less hard, but it's a lot more consistent, and it's a lot quicker reload. This is, of course, the blaster where you can shoot individual darts. You pull it back just like a fire strike or anything like that. And then, of course, there's a selector switch on the side, which will let you shoot all three in a shotgun blast. Now, this shotgun blast was cool, but it was pretty pitiful. It's meant to be like a last-ditch close-range option. This was a bit better than that, but only with 2 darts. Once modded, this is singing a little bit different phrases. Was this mod easy to do? No. It does, in fact, have the same size plunger tube as the Far Shot and all of its variants, the M6, plasma pistol, and so forth, which means it can, in fact, take the legendary K26 spring. This is a full length of K26, called so because of the part number from McMaster Car, where you would order a bag of them, and it is a very, very good replacement option for many blasters, but BOOMco specifically seems to love it the most. And of course, this does, in fact, hit really hard. But you gotta keep in mind, it's a 2-dart shotgun, and it's essentially being directly compared to the foam variant, which is, of course, the rough cut 2x4, which has one more shot in it and slam fire, and fires the typical ammo that you would choose in a Nerf war, which is, of course, the standard foam dart, or, well, this one. Now, not that there's really too much wrong with this, although this is a elite dart, and they typically have a lot of problems, especially at higher velocity. BOOMco don't. BOOMco fires well, and while the velocity, of course, is a little bit lower than what you would get with something that's shooting only 1 dart, it's still really darn good. Now, I would say it's roughly 2.5 times better than stock. That's not saying a whole lot, because stock, if you had a good angle, and BOOMco really loves its angle because it flies really good, well, you could probably hit the standard elite ranges with those 2 darts, but with this thing, It's sailing a little bit past that, but of course it still likes its angle. Now, it's a 2-shot, 3-shot. You get it. It's 2 darts, 3 shots. It's not exactly the best ever. If you have a good far shot pistol that's shooting once and you haven't really had any problems hitting targets, well, this might not be for you, but I know a couple of people I've shown this to so far, Captain Xavier included. In fact, if you want to see the mod video on this, well, go ahead and subscribe to his channel. It'll be there whenever he actually uploads that thing, which might be a little while. But to get this thing to take a K26 spring required 3 idiots. It required Captain Xavier to pretty much say it wouldn't happen, for me to say it should happen, and then one guy to watch us both fail. And what it came down to is I had the idea of reinforcing the internals, because it's a kind of, if you watched my unboxing in internals, it's an indirect prime, obviously, because you have this pump down here, but the plunger tube is up here, which is kind of sucky, I would say, and it could have been probably designed a little bit better. Maybe it was down here or something, shot from the bottom, I don't quite know. But it didn't really work all that well once you put a K26 in it. Didn't prime, had a lot of issues, and it kind of came down to thinking of doing maybe even a whole pump rework on it and then trying to think of what would happen. And I mentioned something in the grip here, because the grip is really awkward, to make it hopefully fall, prime back more. And then Buddy came out of nowhere and said, why don't you just like cut a little slot in here? And because it was like every single time you primed it, it was just barely not going back far enough. And sure enough, a little bit of time with the blade, and it worked perfectly well. So if you are planning on modding these things, not that you'll probably be able to get your hands on one, that's what you'll have to do. I reinforced the parts inside of it, the priming rod itself. There are some blank holes that have nothing in them that are just flimsy. I reinforced those with some Reactor Seal 200 from Home Depot, which is an epoxy putty that works really well for structural integrations, I would say. And then this little slot right here, and then of course a K26 spring swap. It could probably even take a little bit more, because this K26 we used was slightly shorter than the stock spring, but why push it for just a little bit more power? Well, the good answer is I still want to do that, and I have a Duke spring laying around, which I might actually shove in this thing. But regardless, well, it's shooting better. Now, I'm not going to go out there and say it's the best thing ever. I know a lot of people are expecting me to say that because it's a shotgun pistol. Shotgun pistols, my 2 favorite things. Put this together, it should be like peanut butter and chocolate. It's not quite at that point, but I really do like it. The one criticism I have of this entire blaster is this reloading. This is absolutely horrendous. There's really only one way to reload this blaster, which are from the guiding holes you can see me sliding these darts out of right here on either side of the blaster. And yeah, you can't really shove a dart in there. I mean, you kinda can, but it doesn't work that well. So when you reload it kinda how they intended, well, I'm reloading 2 different cylinders, 2 different shots at this point. And then I have to pump it, and then it returns it. When you push it forward, it will rotate the thing, and then do that again, and then do that again, and then I'm ready to fire. And that's a little slow, especially if I'm on the field. It's gonna be very difficult to do that. And the spread is decent, although I think it could be a little bit better. The darts have a tendency to kind of group together and kind of spiral into your opponent, or in this case, a hanging white sheet. And while it does a good job, it could be a little bit better. It doesn't really feel more like a shotgun, so I'm just tapping one target twice in the same spot with 2 darts. That's not the best thing ever. But, that being said, again, this might be a little bit of my bias because I love BOOMco, I love pistols, and I love shotguns, and this is all of that combined. I do like it quite a bit, and I can recommend picking it up, especially when, while I'm a little harsh on the performance even after the K26 upgrade, it's still really good. You could probably get the similar performance out of a modded rough cut, but your modded rough cut will probably destroy itself if you do try, because it's full of gears. This, not so much. The prime after you mod it, by the way, is exceptionally heavy. I find myself kind of working this like a typical shotgun. I mean, I raise, when I'm holding it, I raise it up and really, kind of like I'm using a Busby Torrent. You really gotta slam that forward. You really gotta get it going, or if you try to limp it, it's just not going to work well for you. But as the package of itself, even though most of you are going to have a hard time getting this because while I haven't mentioned in this video, I did mention in my last one, this is pretty much only exclusive to places like Singapore, Malaysia, the Asian countries, and then Mexico. And probably South America and stuff like that, I'm not quite sure. But it's definitely not available anywhere in the US or Canada that I know of, and I know other places like Europe and, you know, the freaking Australia, they can't find BOOMco worth anything, which really hurts them, you know, trying to get started in this if you're interested. It's really difficult. But here we are with a very, very nice pump action shotgun pistol, and I can definitely recommend it. I paid a decent amount for mine, but the stock price is about $15, and I mean about, because again, it's not in the US currency, and I can recommend picking it up for that. I would even pay, if you're a BOOMco fan such as myself, paying a little bit more for it. In a war practical scenario, it's pretty much a good holstered blaster that you can use to really menace 1 or 3 people. I mean, it's a good shot. You can really deal some damage with it if you get a decent arc on the darts, because it will probably sail well past the 120-foot mark if you do that, and it honestly performs pretty admirably once it's modded, but pre-modding probably not so much, and the modding on this is pretty difficult. I mean, I pretty much judge my Springer modifications as if Captain Xavier has a hard time with it and almost gives up, then it might be a little more difficult for everybody else to get to. But let me know what you think about the BOOMco Double Rush down in the comments section below. And as always, this has been Walcom S7's Hands. Thank you very much for watching this video. And of course, I hope to see you in an entirely different one.